Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Big Mike Talks, where today I'm going to be going over the week that was in pro wrestling. So that's going to be Monday Night Raw, NWA Power, and AEW Dynamite. It was a very interesting week of shows, so let's get into this one. So we start off Monday Night Raw. We see Logan Paul arriving. He gets out of his car along with IShowSpeed, who still never really heard of. And then coming out is Patrick Mahomes. They're all in the parking lot and they're starting to walk in. They run into Judgment Day. Say they got a plan for Jey Uso. I know it's a draft episode and rosters aren't set yet. What's Logan Paul doing here? I'm sorry. He should stay on SmackDown, where it's... Although we'll get to that segment later. So, first off, we go into the arena for a Becky Lynch promo. Pretty much saying, I got my stuff together. I finally won the title. And in this arena was where the man was born, when Nia Jax hit her a little stiff and blood came out of her nose, which that image is still up here. That's a crazy image. It's taken me 2 years to get back to holding a title. And I'm holding it. These titles aren't just meant for holding, they're for defending. So, I want to defend it. I want to be a fighting champion. I only want to fight the Liv Morgan comes out. Which, fair. She says pretty much, look, if you're looking for a challenger, here I am. Because without me, you wouldn't be holding this title. Because I injured Rhea Ripley. Feel better soon, Rhea. So, then Liv pretty much says, look, the last thing I want is to be handed a title shot, but you obviously owe me one. And this is obviously still the Liv Morgan Revenge Tour. And the end game was always going to be me. And I'm not stopping until I get everything I want. Becky replies, well, you would be holding this if it wasn't for me and what I did to you. And then all of a sudden, out comes Nia Jax, calling the crowd rude, which, poor Nia, I do kind of feel bad for her. Pretty much says, I don't know about any of you. I dominated the both of you last week. It took both of you to eliminate me. I should be the champion, but that's not going to be stopping me to be champ. And while this is my last night on Raw, she got drafted to SmackDown. And if I'm leaving, I'm taking one of you with me. Before Nia can get in the ring, Liv Morgan with a big old drop kick. She gets back on the mic, says, if you're making a challenge for tonight, I accept. So, that's what, I think that's going to be our main event for later. So, that should be interesting. Then we see the Raw return of Stephanie McMahon, which is wild, considering she was named in the allegations against her father. But anyway, she's out to announce the first round of night 2 of the draft, which that's pretty interesting. I'll give her a little cameo for that. So the first pick for Monday Night Raw is Imperium. However, it's just Ludwig Kaiser and Gunther. Ooh. So Imperium is broken up. We'll circle around back to that in a minute. SmackDown's first pick for night 2, of course, it's Jade Cargill. staying over on SmackDown. Probably going to set up for a feud with Bianca post Backlash. And then Raw gets the entirety of Damage Control. So that's Dakota Kai, Io Sky, the former champs, and the women's tag team champions, the Kabuki Warriors. Now, obviously with the women's tag straps, they can go and defend it on any brand they want. So, and if they lose it, they're pretty much exclusive to Raw. So, we'll see what happens there. And SmackDown's last pick, it's a bit of a doozy. It's Kevin Owens. So, we definitely got some moves between the brands. I was kind of hoping Gunther would be going to SmackDown because, you know, he kind of helped put that brand on its back. Plus, I see him as a challenger for Cody Rhodes. I mean, maybe not right away, but eventually. But it looks like Gunther is focusing on King of the Ring, which, that should be interesting. That tournament actually starts next week, so that should be fun. Speaking of Gunther, we have him taking on Xavier Woods one-on-one. And this started out as a chop fest. Like, anytime Gunther would hit Woods, Woods would retaliate, which definitely is the exact opposite of what we've been seeing from Gunther. Then all of a sudden, I forget what move really did it, but Woods ended up hurting his knee a little bit, and Gunther just targets it, including slamming it into the apron. Oh yeah, it got caught up in the ropes when Woods got tied up in the ropes, which, honestly, I kind of missed that spot. It's interesting. Gunther goes up for a big splash, but that gets blocked with the knees. Woods goes for a super kick, that gets caught right into a Boston Crab. And then something interesting happens. Kofi Kingston goes to the timekeeper's area, doesn't grab a chair, grabs a towel. He gets up on the apron, looks like he's going to throw it in, finishing the match. Woods is down on in the Boston Crab saying, "No, I can finish this. I can do this." Kofi's on the ring apron, a little confused. He wants to save his friend. But then he throws it off to the side, gets down off the apron. Eventually, Woods fights out of it into a hammer and anvil by Woods. But then that immediately gets countered into an STF by Gunther, who wins by submission. So, Gunther with a pretty interesting little win over Mr. Woods. I'm going to be interested to see what Gunther has in store for the future. Next up, we got a backstage interview with Mr. Jey Uso. Main event Jey Uso, I should say. Pretty much saying he's not feeling the pressure of being a number one contender or the number one pick in the draft for Raw. I'm going to put this brand on the back, and at Backlash, Damian Priest is catching a yeet down. That is a great use of yeet. This Jey Uso gimmick is growing on me more and more. This is great. We now get WWE Draft Round 2, Night 2, and the picks being announced by Logan Paul and IShowSpeed, which, interesting, it does make sense to try and get more eyes on. First pick for Monday Night Raw, it's CM Punk, in which he is still out injured. We'll get to that in 2 seconds, though. Got an interesting angle with Drew and Punk coming up. SmackDown takes the entirety of the Pride, so that's Bobby Lashley, Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins, and B-Fab. So I think this is the first time this team has been called the Pride on air, which is always... Hopefully that means we got some merchandise coming out or something coming for them. So that's cool. Raw's next pick, the return of the monster among men, Braun Strowman. Always good to see someone coming back from injury. Glad he's all good, and he looks gigantic. Like, we'll get into that too. He comes out. SmackDown takes Tiffany Stratton in their last pick of the second round, which makes sense. She's challenging for the Women's World title at Backlash. So, definitely a big surprise for Strowman. No real, I'll talk about the draft later. So, anyway, Logan Paul and IShowSpeed then get on the mic saying, let's get real. I got here and Jey Uso is running his mouth. And Priest will beat Jey Uso at Backlash. And Jey made the mistake of leaving the bloodline. He's incapable of winning on his own, which, dang. Then this brings out Jey Uso. He gets a microphone, pretty much says, oh, Paul got some predictions for Backlash. I could be the champ, and why don't I try to knock the yeet out of Logan Paul? Logan Paul, oh, so you think you can out-yeet me? Little brother Jay trying to roast me? Then out comes, from the back, it's JD McDonough and Finn Balor. They get in the ring, surround Jey Uso. Logan's like, little brother Jay, alone again. Before Jay says anything, he starts beating down Judgment Day for a little bit. Numbers catch up to him. Then Logan Paul goes outside the ring to Patrick Mahomes, who's sitting ringside. Takes all 3 of his Super Bowl rings, puts them on his finger, gets in the ring, goes to hit Jay, who is being held by JD McDonough. Jay ducks. Big old punch to JD McDonough, who has a very big lump on his head later in the night. And, they're all standing around. They're all looking down at JD McDonough. Jey Uso kind of slides in and he's like, yeah, what a punch. And then Logan and Balor turn around. They start beating him down again. Then out comes to make the save Braun! It's Braun Strowman. Logan Paul bails. Strowman with a choke slam to Balor. Then Braun starts walking along after Logan Paul. Paul runs off into the crowd. Then Braun sees Patrick Mahomes. They stare down for a little bit, and then Jey Uso backs him off of Braun Strowman off. So, interesting turn of events. Apparently, Patrick Mahomes is a heel in Kansas City. I don't know. Doesn't really make sense to me, but whatever. It was a fine angle. I didn't mind it at all. Then we go backstage. You have R-Truth talking with Chad Gable. And apparently he made a deal for a tag team title match for Alpha Academy, which, that's kind of sus. And Truth is like, oh, the draft is tonight. Miz comes in. Chad Gable walks off. Miz asks R-Truth, what was all that about? Oh, never mind that. We're going to see them later. But obviously tonight's the draft, and there's a possibility I could be going to the NFL. In which Miz says to him, no, this is the WWE draft. You're not going anywhere. And Truth is like, oh, my bad. Well, I still want to be in the NFL. Who do I talk to for that? You could talk to Patrick Mahomes. He's sitting ringside. And Truth's like, Mahomes? The State Farm guy? Dude, R-Truth is a national treasure and he should be protected forever. Oh, that was good. That was good. And then you see Chad Gable kind of stand off to the side, laughing to himself a little, when out of nowhere, a haluva kick from Sami Zayn. Oh, this feud's gonna get interesting. I am loving this. Then we got this weird interview with Booker T, who apparently is a draft an analyzer? I don't know. It's weird. Calling Jade Cargill a game changer. Got a question on what's gonna happen with Judgment Day. Talks about CM Punk. Then that brings in Drew McIntyre, who says, "Tell me you did not just say that." A little shot at Booker T's old catchphrase. Saying, Punk got hurt in one match in the Rumble. I took him out. I should still be the champion, but Punk cost me. Booker T then says, "It's the title you don't have?" Then Drew retorted, "You know what happened. I know how you really feel about Punk. You've changed." And then Drew walks off. Drew getting in Booker T's face. Interesting. We then get our first title match of the evening, as it's for the Intercontinental title, as Bronson Reed takes on Sami Zayn. And at first, this was Bronson Reed domination. Like, the dude should have a title by now. I'm sorry. I love Sami Zayn. He deserves this more than anyone else. Well, but I think Bronson Reed should have a title by now. Anyway, Sami Zayn fights back. Bronson Reed then with a big old shoulder tackle from the apron, which, that is impressive. I don't know who, I gotta say. Then, as Sami Zayn is loading up for the haluva kick, in comes Chad Gable. It's a big old suplex on Sami Zayn, in which the match is thrown out. Then Sami Zayn and Chad Gable continue to brawl in the ring. Gable with an ankle lock to Sami Zayn. Officials are out to break it up. Then Bronson Reed with a tsunami to both men. Gable then stands over Sami Zayn with the Intercontinental title. Reed with a Death Valley driver to Chad Gable. Then Reed picks up the title, holds it over Gable and Sami Zayn. I'm a little sad that this went to a no contest, but it does set up something a bit more interesting. A little triple threat action. I don't mind it. We then get our next round of picks, as it's round number 3, as the picks are announced by JBL and Ron Simmons, aka the APA. And I loved this team back in the day. This was great. And then we get our first really big brand change coming over from SmackDown to Raw is the entirety of the LWO. So that's Rey Mysterio, Dragon Lee, Zelina Vega, Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde, and then for whatever reason, he's still with them, apparently, Carlito. Then they show the footage of Carlito attacking Dragon Lee. So, yeah, this is definitely going to be interesting. SmackDown keeping Legado del Fantasma, that's Santos Escobar, Humberto Carrillo, Angel Garza, and not Scarlett. I'm sorry, I forget her name. It'll probably come to me sooner than later. Raw is going to end up keeping Drew McIntyre, which, that's fine. Then SmackDown gets a very old favorite of theirs. It's Shinsuke Nakamura, Hopefully this means Nakamura is going to get a little bit more of a push on SmackDown, because dude honestly feels like he's treading water. We then get a big old Drew McIntyre promo. He's on the ramp, pretty much saying only a sane person would... An insane person would... Am I the only sane person left? When do I get drafted in round 3? I'm not joking. I think that's not cool. It's the furthest thing... Punk is the furthest thing from anti-establishment. At WrestleMania, you fractured my elbow, but I kept coming back to work. And before Drew can say anything else, Punk's music hits, but he doesn't come out. Instead, he's up in a box seat. Anyway, he addresses the crowd. And Drew, I'm obviously not sitting at home. I'm right here. Why don't you come and get me? So then Drew walks backstage in a huff, looking for Mr. Punk. We'll get to that in a little bit. We then see Alpha Academy backstage. They're getting chewed out by Chad Gable. Maxine Dupree celebrating a little bit over the eliminations in the Battle Royal. Chad Gable's like, oh, you did well. Good. Where's your title? See? I don't see any title because you didn't win. What do we do here? Celebrate mediocrity? And Tozawa, I don't want to see you do your stupid dance tonight. Otis, I don't even want to say anything about you. Go win me the tag team titles. Then Ivy Nile comes in. Pretty much says to Maxine, look, we got a match tonight. Why don't you come with me? They walk off. Then we get a little Braun Breaker interview. So, this could be interesting. Saying that Adam knows I was the best pig for Raw, and I'm ready to show what I got. And he gets interrupted by Sheamus. Sheamus versus Braun Breaker. Heck yeah. Sheamus then says, look, guy, save your breath. I'm a big fan of yours. You remind me of a young, hungry Sheamus. I hope this match goes down. Then we see behind Sheamus, Drew McIntyre zip by. Maybe make that a triple threat? I wouldn't say no. Then we get kind of the lone, kind of down match of the night as we see Candice LeRae take on Maxine Dupree. And I'm going to say this. Maxine really brought it tonight. Was she perfect? No. Was she really, really good? Absolutely. She has improved, including a, somersault elbow, which that was impressive. And a reverse caterpillar elbow drop. That was impressive. But before Maxine can get a pinfall, Indy Hartwell is up on the apron with the distraction. Then Ivy Nile takes out Indy Hartwell. Maxine eats a big boot from Candice. And then Candice LeRae wins with the Wicked Stepmother, which is a great name for a finisher. So, I won't really call this a down on Raw, but I do wish they gave these two a little bit more time. But they did a whole heck of a lot with the time they had. So, I do appreciate that. We then get an interview from the LWO, being led by Rey Mysterio, pretty much saying, look, there's a lot of mixed emotions. I don't know why Carlito did what he did, but here on Raw we have unfinished business. And as he says that, in comes his bouncing baby boy, Dominic, saying, remember, Judgment Day run Raw. then Ray retorts, how can you run anything when you haven't even been drafted yet? And see your Dirty Sanchez. And Dom has a very thin mustache going, which, oh God, Ray, that was great. Then we see Drew McIntyre. He's up in the box seat section looking for Punk. Passes by one group of fans. They say, he's in there, he's in there. Walks in, walks past the inside part, goes to the arena part. He's not there. So then we see on one of the tables inside, Punk left a signed picture for Drew, which is very, very funny. Punk's music then hits. He's out on the stage. Then we get a CM Punk promo saying, I don't want to waste your time. Normally, this will be the time I ask, do I have your attention now? And then Drew is like an ex-girlfriend I can't get rid of. I hurt your elbow. I got hurt because that's all the only reason you got hurt is because you're tweeting all the time because that's all you're good for. But cheer up. You've given me purpose. And the reason I was drafted before you, I'm the best in the world all around this arena. Losers hope things happen. Winners make it happen. And when I'm 100%, I'm going to make your life a living hell. Oh, this was a very interesting Punk promo. Hopefully he gets back to 100% soon because I want to see this match. Like, bar none, I want to see this match go down. So next up, we got round 4 of the draft, being announced by the weird coupling of Teddy Long and Alundra Blaze. And before they announce the picks, Punk comes over, shakes Teddy Long's hand, and I want to say he kissed Alundra Blaze on the cheek, which, okay. So round number 4, picks are in. Raw takes the remaining members of Judgment Day. Priest is already staying on Raw because he has the world title. Rhea is not involved in this draft because she got hurt. So, probably not seeing her for a while. So this is JD McDonough, Finn Balor, and Dominic Mysterio. SmackDown keeps Naomi, which that does make sense. And then we get our first kind of big move of the night as Raw selects former NXT champion Ilya Dragunov. And oh boy, I can't wait for this. Because in NXT and NXT UK, he and Gunther had some wars. Like that's a big old get for Raw. Can't wait to see him debut. It's going to be awesome. And then this interesting little pick as SmackDown gets Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. Now, the reason this is interesting is because the ring announcer does special announcements for certain wrestlers, especially for Chelsea Green, which adds so much to that character. And now we're losing it. And that's a shame. Anyway, maybe we'll bring the announcer over for special occasions. Either way, interesting move. Then we get our next match of the evening. Yes, it's that long since there's been a match. It's Nia Jax taking on Liv Morgan. And Nia starts off with the powerhouse stuff she's been doing. And then we cut to as Nia is slamming Liv Morgan into the announce table. We pan over. We see Tiffany Stratton sitting ringside, I guess scouting. They're back in the ring. Nia Jax misses on a big splash. Liv with a whole bunch of drop kicks. Nia with a catching Samoan drop, which that was interesting. Then Liv with a drop toe hold, which Nia landed in face first into the turnbuckles. Nia with a nasty looking spinebuster. Nia looking for the Annihilator, but Liv Morgan gets up, pushes her off the top rope. And then we see something interesting. In the crowd, Naomi walks up to Tiffany Stratton. They start brawling into the ringside area. They're up on the apron. Nia Jax sees them, knocks them both off the apron. Liv with a codebreaker and Oblivion for the win. Definitely a bit of a screwy way to win, but it's interesting, to say the least. Like, I'm definitely digging the Liv Nia power struggle, but then you got the Tiffany Stratton Naomi stuff, kind of connecting everything together. I like it. Then we do another Booker T interview. This time he's talking about NXT, in which he doesn't know because he's an announcer, saying Ilya Dragunov is a big get for Raw, but who's coming up next? Then we see Adam Pearce walk in, saying, picks are great, but I'm relishing in one that I did not make, as I am done with Chelsea Green. Nick Aldis, she's your problem now. Oh, that dynamic is going to be interesting. Because Adam Pearce was a bit of a pushover for Chelsea Green. Nick Aldis is a bit stronger. So, we'll see how that goes. So, we got WWE Draft Round 5. The picks announced by Bubba Ray and Devon. Those gosh darn Dudley boys. Love me some Dudleys. Get a wada and a get the tables chant going before the picks are announced. So, pick number 1, Raw keeps the New Day. I kind of like this pick. It keeps them around, keeps them in an interesting place. Although, I would have liked to see them back on SmackDown, trying to take 8 Down Under's title. Then SmackDown picks Pretty Deadly, so they're sticking around too. Maybe they're going to be in an alliance with Waller and Theory and maybe Logan Paul, which I wouldn't say no to. We got our next Raw call-up from NXT, as it's Lyra Valkyria. I am not super familiar with her because I don't really watch NXT, but it's always good to have a new face. And then SmackDown taking another women's tag team as they take Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. Alright, separating them from Maxine Dupree and Ivy Nile for a little bit. I wouldn't say no to that. Then we go into our next match, as it's for the World Tag Team titles, as Miz and R-Truth are taking on Otis and Akira Tozawa of the Alpha Academy. And this starts off white hot without Akira Tozawa getting a bit of a head start on the R-Truth for a little bit. Otis comes in with a Miz goes for a crossbody, gets caught into a World's Strongest Slam, into the Caterpillar, tags in Tozawa, goes for the senton, Miz gets his knee up, goes for the skull-crushing finale, Tozawa gets out of it, then Miz and R-Truth hit the truth-crushing finale, which is a weird finisher name. And your winners, still tag team champions, The Awesome Truth. This was a nice, quick, kind of palate cleanser match, which I shouldn't be saying that about a tag team title match, but it was what it was. I'm not going to complain that much. Then Judgment Day are backstage. Balor and Dom are complaining about falling for the 4th round. Then Priest chimes up saying, look, you guys got involved in my business. I don't need your help to beat Jay. So tonight, let's stick to the plan. And then he walks off. We then see Liv Morgan walking around backstage. She runs into Becky Lynch. Becky congratulates her on her win. And congratulations on your title shot. So then Liv Morgan walks off. Damage Control walk in. Pretty much saying, see you soon, Beck. And then walk off. Ooh. Who's going to be the challenger? It's going to be Io? Is it going to be Dakota Kai, maybe? I'm excited. I definitely am. So then we go into round 6, aka the last round of the televised draft. And the men announcing the picks: Raw GM Adam Pearce, SmackDown GM Nick Aldis. And for Raw's first pick, they get the Final Testament. So that's Akam and Razor of AOP, Karrion Kross, Paul Ellering, and Scarlett. I'm definitely more than happy to see Final Testament get away from the Pride for a bit. That feud definitely needs to be done. We get something fresh on Raw. Speaking of something fresh on Raw, I didn't expect this. Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa going to SmackDown. Ooh, that's an interesting way to go. Raw's last televised pick of the draft, it's Bronson Reed. I honestly had him going to SmackDown, but staying on Raw, I guess, does make sense. Then with the last televised pick of the draft, we have SmackDown calling up from NXT Blair Davenport, in which that is an interesting pick. Because she is super underrated. I believe she spent some time in really early AEW. So, yeah, this is going to be interesting. And then we roll right into our main event, and it's a 6-man tag team match, playa, as Jey Uso teams up with Ricochet and Andrade to take on Judgment Day members Damian Priest, Finn Balor, and Dominic Mysterio. And this was a very, very chaotic match. Really good back and forth between the teams. Priest with a broken arrow on Ricochet, but that only gets a 2 count. Judgment Day then with some quick tags and some quick moves to Ricochet, who hits a recoil on JD McDonough, tags in Jey Uso, Balor gets in. They start wailing on each other. Then Priest gets up on the apron, holds his title in front of Jey, who gets distracted and eats a knee. Balor with a crossbody for only a 2 count. Goes for a clothesline. That gets blocked by Jey Uso. Hits a flatliner. Priest gets tagged in. Hits a bunch of clotheslines. Razor's Edge only gets a 2 count. Jey with a Samoan drop and an Uso splash. Dom then gets on the apron. JD pushes Jey off the top. Then gets back in. Hits a couple of super kicks, a spear, and an Uso splash to get the win for his team. Post-match, we see Jey Uso and Priest have a little face-off before their match for Backlash. Overall, it wasn't a bad night for WWE. But they need to fix this draft format because it is not the most exciting thing. Maybe I'll do a video in the future trying to adjust the WWE draft next time. So that was Monday Night Raw. We then head right into NWA Power, in which this is a part of their Hard Times special. We get a hype video for the main event, which is Trevor Lee and Mike Knox taking on the Southern Sixes, Kerry Morton and I forget the other guy's name. So that should be an interesting little cage match. We start off with a little tag team action as the kids take on the Slime Balls to see who progresses for a U.S. Tag Team title shot. And this match did start off a little super slow, but eventually it got brought up to 10. Kids tagging in and out, trying to get the better of the younger, the smaller Sage. Eventually he tags his partner in. He goes on a bit of a roll. Until eventually the kids hit an aided powerbomb and a senton for the victory. So, definitely a very entertaining first match for Power. We're going to see what happens a little later. We then get a backstage interview with Austin Idol in which it's revealed if Kazana wins tonight against his man Andrews, anyone can be fired from the NWA, including Austin. And then Austin's like that, wait. But I'm not wrestling. I can get fired? No, you can't pick me. That's not going to happen. One of those jerks on the other side is getting wheeled out. NWA has to have me. And then that segment just kind of ends. Austin Idol fired up, which we'll get into that match in a little bit. We then get an interview from Blake Troop's manager, pretty much saying, world is about criminal justice. The worst punishment goes to the worst offender. And next week, this man proves he belongs here in wrestling. And I am going to guarantee you that Troop is going to be your next national champion. So, big old 4-way coming next week for the national title, in which Thrillbilly Silas Mason, kind of cashed in for his world title shot, which is also coming next week. Keep your eyes out for that. Next up, we got a last call match where the winner gets to pick one of the losers. The losers' teammates to fire from NWA. So we got AJ Kazana taking on his cousin and former tag team partner, Anthony Andrews. And this, low-key, was a hoss fight. This was absolute mayhem back and forth. For whatever reason, the other Kazanas, that's KZ and I forget who the AJ, they're handcuffed, but the other team isn't. I don't get that. So Zion goes after KC, gets run off by AJ. And then Anthony Andrews with a spear right through the ropes. and then a scoop slam on the ramp, which that looked like that hurt. They get back in the ring. Big Brute Codebreaker combo, only for a 2 count. They go back and forth. AJ with a running power slam to pick up the win. So then the Kazanas are unlocked. In they come. He invites the Idol Boys in. Says he's been waiting for this for a few months. And you've done nothing but do the wrong thing. Goes down the line asking why they should be kept in the NWA. They then go in, the Kazanas then go into a huddle. They come back and say, well, Austin Idol, your boy Anthony Andrews is going to get fired. So, that's definitely interesting. Surprised Anthony Andrews isn't sticking around, but there's plenty of places for him to go. Then we got something interesting. It is a BLKG's hype video showing his long history of, both sickness. He had cancer. He got over it. Then he was in a car accident, but then he recovered. So now he's coming back to the NWA, in which that is such good news. I'm glad he's all better and ready to go. We then get to our main event of NWA Power, and it's a cage match as Knox and Murdoch take on the Southern Six. Southern Six, they have a little face-off to start with Knox and Murdoch. Then they then try to scramble up the cage to escape, in which, it's an escape the cage stipulation. I do not like those. But then Knox and Murdoch stop them and toss them back down to the ring. Knox and Murdoch then just start dominating this match. Like, Southern Six really don't have it much of a chance. Then as Knox and Murdoch are going to double team Kerry Morton, Ricky Morton, who has been ringside, throws some powder in their eyes, which definitely very old school, but I like it. So Southern Six get the advantage. Kerry Morton with a sick looking DDT. Then Alex Taylor, I knew I'd get there eventually, goes to escape again. Knox stops him. He goes for a double superplex, but that gets initially blocked. Then the Southern Six with a double sunset flip powerbomb, which that was sick. Taylor tries for a crossbody. That gets caught into a spine buster. Then at that moment, with everyone else down, Murdoch looks to walk through the door. Then Ricky Morton comes over and just slams it right into Murdoch. Youch! That was like on the level of what Abyss did to AJ Styles back in the day. That was gnarly. So then, Ricky Morton then takes off his belt, hands it to Taylor. He then starts whacking Knox and Murdoch with it, and starts choking him out with the belt. Then out comes Eric Smalls, who has been the ally for Knox and Murdoch against the Southern Six. He low blows Ricky, which, that's interesting. Climbs up the cage, goes face to face with Kerry Morton. He knocks Kerry Morton from the top of the cage, and it's a big old crossbody to the Southern Six. Then he leaves the ring, which is interesting. I guess he's a man of honor or whatever. Then as he's leaving the cage, out comes Rolando Friedman, who just starts attacking Smalls. They then go back to the arena. Southern Six tried for a high-low, but that Murdoch ducks it, throws both into the cage. Knox and Murdoch and then set for Alex Taylor. Hit the high-low for the victory for Knox and Murdoch. High-low. Kerry Morton tries to go for a crossbody. Gets caught. Hits a flapjack. Then Murdoch goes for the door. Refs open it. Ricky tries to do the slamming door spot again. Murdoch just kind of grabs it. Open the door. Walks right out. So your winners, Mike Knox and Trevor Murdoch. Definitely an interesting way to end this week. Definitely a big week next week as the world title's on the line. Overall, NWA was a very nice wrestling show. Intermittent with some crazy interesting promos. So, we'll see what we have going forward. And now we finish off tonight with AEW Dynamite. And if you didn't see Dynamite this past week, it was also part of a 3-hour block that include AEW Rampage, which I won't have for now. I'll save that for next week. Anyway, we'll start with Dynamite, and it opens up with Tony Khan saying, I can't produce from Jacksonville. I can't produce there in Winnipeg, so I'm going to do it here remotely in Jacksonville. And then as he goes along, he's going to try to announce who's going to lead AEW in his stead. He gets cut off production-wise. We pan back out. We see it's the Young Bucks who did it. They say, we lost connection, and while Tony Khan isn't here, we are. And why aren't we fired? We got that ironclad contract. And if Tony Khan is unreachable, it said our contract also says we are in charge. So let's start in 3, 2, 1. We then get an opening video it's the opener to Dynamite, which is now the updated version, but it's all the elite guys. So the Young Bucks, Jack Perry, and Okada, which that's interesting. We'll see how this show goes. Then we start off the real show with a Swerve Strickland promo saying we got 3 matches. We had 3 shows in 1 week. I'm the champ AEW deserves, but I'm also the champ I said I would be. And AEW doesn't deserve these power-hungry EVPs. And I stand on my word. What you did to Tony was a bitch move. So, we move on from that. Now, I don't have an opponent currently for Double or Nothing. Whoever it is, come on out. Let's do it. Then we see the Young Bucks. They're on the screen. They still have the headsets saying, we just wanted to drop by, congratulate you on your success. But it's clear the success has gone to your head. And you need a little dose of humility. So your opponent at Double or Nothing, it's going to be the best wrestler of all time. And we see him clearly at Gorilla. He's ready to go. In 3, 2, 1. It's the returning Christian Cage. We haven't seen him since his loss to Adam Copeland for the TNT title. Christian Cage has his microphone. He also has his family out there with him. Then he looks like he's going to say something. Instead, mic to the Swerve's face. Swerve tries to fight back against Cage, but then Killswitch and Nick Wayne come in. They start beating on Swerve. And then Killswitch with a big old choke slam on the AEW title. And then Nick Wayne with a Wayne's World to Prince Nana, which getting the manager involved. Love it. Then Christian Cage gets his mic back, says, "Swerve, something you don't know about me, I never forget. I remember you leaving my son, Nick Wayne, in a pool of his own blood in his dojo. And at one time, at All In, we tagged together. And you were the losing factor in that match. And I've been waiting for that moment, for this moment this entire time. There's no better time than now to make you pay. And I'm going to end your AEW title reign. You're going to be a footnote in AEW. You talked about your path to the title. When I'm finished with you, your daughter won't want to know you. I'm going to walk into Double or Nothing, and I'm going to rip that title from your hands. Swerve, your pain has only just begun." So then Killswitch picks Swerve up by the head and just rips one of his braids out of his skull. Ow, 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 ow. Oh, that looked like it hurt. So that was an interesting start to Dynamite. And we go on to a promo from the House of Black, saying their 6-man tag match at Dynasty went exactly how we thought it was. And now I have 2 wins over the TNT champ. We've obviously accepted the Cope Open, but who's going to be the challenger? You'll find out when the world does. So we go right into that match as Adam Copeland defends his TNT title against one of the 3 members of the House of Black. And as the lights go out, Malachi Black goes into a bit of a talk saying, "Oh, why do this now when I can prolong your suffering?" And then he sends out Buddy Matthews, which I don't think we've ever had this match. So this is definitely really good. And this match was just, it was pure magic. It was so good. They went move for move, tick for tack. Hell, Copeland even went for a dive, which, Copeland, please slow down, dude. Copeland with tries for the Impaler DDT, that gets blocked. Buddy gets Copeland in the sleeper hold, but Adam fights out into a big boot and a flatliner. Tries for a superplex, but that gets blocked. They then both kind of push each other from the top of the ring, top turnbuckle, and land on the outside. They're both down for a little while. They get up. Ref is at an 8 count. 9. They both beat the count, which that's great. Copeland then hits a crossbody, which apparently does something to Buddy Matthews, in which the ref is calling over the doctor ringside to check on Buddy Matthews. We go to picture-in-picture. They're kind of still looking at each other. When it comes back, Buddy is up, and he's doing all he can to fight off Copeland. Tries for a powerbomb that gets blocked. Buddy goes for a superplex off the top rope that gets blocked into an Impaler DDT onto the middle turnbuckle. That was absolutely crazy. But that only gets a 2 count. Copeland is ready for the spear. Goes running towards Matthews. He gets his knee right up. He runs right into it. Matthews with the jackhammer, only for 2. Gets Copeland in the crossface. Copeland counters it with a roll-up, only for 2. Copeland with an angle slam, which, nice little tribute to one of the best wrestlers of all time. That only gets a 2. Copeland misses on a spear, which that's very rare. Buddy Matthews goes for a kick, whiffs, spear, your winner, Adam Copeland. And then post-match, which is very, very interesting, Adam Copeland attacks Buddy Matthews. Then he goes to get a couple of chairs, hits a big old chair shot to Matthews, sets Buddy up for a concerto. Lights go out. Lights come back on. Malachi Black is standing right next to Copeland. He's saying, "Do it. Hit him. Hit him." And then it looks like Adam is going to turn it and clock Malachi. Lights go out. Lights come back on. Buddy and Malachi are gone. So, this House of Black feud with Copeland, it's getting very, very interesting as next week we're going to get Copeland versus Brody King. Oh, that's going to be a fight. I can't wait for that. Speaking of a fight, in a very interesting one-on-one matchup, it's Samoa Joe taking on Isaiah Cassidy, a Private Party. And right as the bell rings, Cassidy goes to Joe's corner where he has his towel from his entrance, puts it on, kind of does a little Joe dance, and then Joe chokes Cassidy with the towel. He gets out of it, tosses it to the outside. Joe chases Cassidy around the ring for a little bit. Cassidy gets in. Joe's about to get in. Eats a cutter, which that was impressive. Cassidy with a try at a big dive, but Joe does his walking away spot, which always pops me. Joe fights back after a little while. Cassidy tries for a monkey flip in the corner, eats a headbutt, and then Joe with a muscle buster for the victory. Honestly, I'm glad this match got a little bit of time. Yeah, it's kind of a match without a story, but that was a nice little back and forth between these two in a clash of styles. Next up, we got a promo from Sky Blue, which very interesting. Calls out Willow Nightingale for a street fight, for a fight on Rampage, and calls her a coward if she won't put her title on the line. Oh, that's going to be interesting. So, we'll cover Rampage another day. Next up, we got an Orange Cassidy promo. He's in the ring, saying, "I hate doing this. Though after Saturday, I was hoping the best friends would come back together. But obviously that's never going to happen. And because what Trent did to Chuck in that parking lot brawl, Chuck is never going to wrestle again. I hope that's in kayfabe, because Chuck Taylor is a fantastically underrated wrestler." And then Orange Cassidy starts to say, "Next time I see you," then Trent Beretta comes out, pretty much saying, "Look at this, Cassidy, always making things about you." Cassidy then jumps out of the ring, tries to go for Trent, but security keeps them separated. Trent then calls Orange Cassidy selfish. Chuck's career is ending. Is all your fault. And then Orange Cassidy makes it to the stage, still being held back by security. Then out comes Don Callis, which that's a very big surprise. He gets on in Orange Cassidy's ear, and he helps Cassidy further back when Trent is posing for the cameras. I hope this doesn't mean what I think it means, because I love Orange Cassidy. Could he use something else? Sure. It definitely isn't Don Callis. Anyway, we're backstage. We got a Young Bucks interview. They say, oh, we don't exactly have time for this. We're looking for an old friend of ours. So instead of clogging up time for us, we're going to give this time to Jack Perry. So they walk off. Jack Perry comes in. He says, I meant what I said to Tony Khan. All I was doing was what was best for business. And that's exactly what I did. Tony, you made me a scapegoat. It was a sacrifice someone had to make. And now we're entering a new era under the Elite. Those are some fighting words. I'm in for this storyline. I'm wondering how this is going to end. And if Tony Khan is going to get a little help. And then we get to this weird match, as it's the FTW title on the line in FTW rules, which means no DQ. As Chris Jericho defends against Katsuyori Shibata. And I'm going to say this. This was a pretty interesting dynamic. Jericho using weapons, including a bag of hockey pucks, which that was very unexpected. I loved that. And then initially, Shibata didn't want to use weapons, but eventually he did get into it, including a spot where he had a trash can on his head. Jericho kept whacking it with a kendo stick, and he kept moving forward. And I guess it was being explained by the announcers that he was using the sound of the impact to locate Jericho, in which, that's really smart by Shibata. I love that. Jericho then gets Shibata in the walls of Jericho. Shibata gets out, goes for the figure 4, but Jericho then flings a puck at Shibata's face. Shibata then sets the trash can in front of Chris Jericho. Massive big old drop kick. That was brutal as heck. Then Shibata gets 2 kendo sticks, drops one, and Jericho and Shibata then start whacking each other while sitting down. Shibata with a suplex into the pile of pucks. Shibata then goes onto the ring, gets a table, sets it up outside the ring, goes back in, starts beating on Jericho for a little while. Jericho with a code breaker, misses on the Judas effect. Shibata with a sleeper. Then as he's in the sleeper, out comes Big Bill with a big old boot. And then a choke slam through the table. Rolls him back into the ring. Jericho with the pin. So your winner, Chris Jericho, still FTW champion. And we'll get to something a little later. We then go backstage to a Willow Nightingale, Chris Statlander, Stokely Hathaway interview in which Statlander apologizes for Willow. I had no right to go out there where I was. Then Willow states, lucky for Sky Blue, I'm in a fighting mood. Mercedes, I got something for you later. Sky Blue, you're on for Rampage. Then Stokely chimes in and says, look, obviously I couldn't complain to Tony Khan. And I couldn't even talk to the Young Bucks. All they do is ignore me. Then we see Renee Paquette get handed a phone that states Stokely Hathaway and Statlander are barred from ringside for Rampage. Ooh, a little intrigue. I like it. We then get this big old hoss fight as it's Claudio Castagnoli taking on the Machine, Brian Cage. And whoo, boy, this was just a fun, entertaining matchup between two giants, including some trading of the 619, aka the Tiger Feint Kick. Multiple times they go for their finishers, only to get it countered. Cage near the end hits a powerbomb, goes for an F5. That gets countered into a couple of uppercuts. Giant swing into the sharpshooter for the win for Claudio Castagnoli. I hope they have something interesting for Claudio coming up, especially with Mox over in New Japan defending his IWGP title, and with Danielson out hurt. We then go to an interview backstage with Rocky Romero, always glad to see him here, saying he's not going to side with anyone in this best friends rivalry. Who's going to be the winner here? I'm done with it. Rocky is going to do his own thing, and while I've been champ pretty much everywhere else, I'm going to fight a man on Rampage who's going to bring the best out of me. Kyle O'Reilly, I have a challenge for you for Rampage. Ooh, gonna see that match a little later. Next up, we got women's action as Serena Deeb takes on Mariah May. And honestly, this was a really, really good back and forth between these two. Going tit for tat for moves. At one point, we see multiple roll-ups, multiple pinfalls. Mariah May goes for "It's Gonna Be May," only for a 2 count. Serena Deeb with a tarantula. But Mariah May counters it into a roll-up for only a 2 count. Mariah May goes for a Hurricane Rana that gets caught, transitions into a Boston Crab, and then you see Deeb smashing Mariah May's knee into the mat. Then Toni Storm, who has been at ringside, takes her towel, throws it into the ring. So your winner, by I guess technical knockout, Serena Deeb. That match with Toni Storm is definitely going to be interesting. We then get a backstage interview with Adam Copeland, saying he's alright, ready to go. Then in comes Kyle O'Reilly, who says, "As a fellow Canadian, your career has meant a lot to me. And if you ever need backup, I got you." And Adam says, "Okay, thanks, man. Good luck out there." So then we get our final bit, and it's the Kenny Omega returns segment, which, get the Kleenexes ready. All I'm going to say. Then he says, "I'm not really good at this talking about weakness. Obviously, I was diagnosed with diverticulitis, and after spending 10 days in the hospital, I felt like I was 24 hours away from dying. I asked the doc, can you patch me up? When can I get you back to Dynamite?" And he says, "I have a few options, and you're going to have to potentially live with a colonoscopy bag." I hope I said that right. So I obviously have a ticking time bomb in my gut. And considering I'm going to wake up in the hospital anyway, you should have the surgery. And I can't lie, I stopped watching AEW for a bit because I was scared. I felt like a coward. and I came out to make a point today about announcing my retirement. But then I turned on Dynasty. I saw so much to be happy about. I wish I could say I was happy. But wait, am I scared of being a wrestler? No, that made me realize, yes, I was scared, but I was going through withdrawals. I needed to be in this ring. I hated it, being forgotten. And then I made a promise to myself, I'm not done until I say so. You're not done with me yet, AEW. Now we talk about a couple of D-bag EVPs running roughshod over the company. And what they forget is there's one other EVP. And while I may be fired from the Elite until someone says otherwise, some power in AEW belongs to me. So it does look like we have our new authority figure. But then out comes one of Kenny Omega's greatest rivals from New Japan, Kazuchika Okada. Then Kenny Omega says to him, you're in here with the best bout machine. We have a bit of a rivalry over in New Japan. Give me a few months and we'll settle it here. Then Okada brings the microphone to his mouth, says, sorry, Kenny, I'm the best bout machine now. Then out of the crowd, I assume, Jack Perry attacks Omega from behind. Then Okada gets a chair, hits a couple of chair shots to security. Jack Perry with a big old suplex. Actually, Kenny Omega off this distraction with a big old suplex to Perry. Goes for a V-trigger, but Okada trips him outside the ring. Crashes to the mat. Then Perry hits Omega with a few more chair shots. Then out comes the Young Bucks, who are now backing Perry and Okada off of Omega. They then start helping Omega up. He's up on his knees. EVP trigger to Kenny Omega. Looks like the beatdown is about to continue. Out comes FTR to make the save for Kenny Omega so the Docs can come in and help Omega. And that is where we're going to stop this, because Rampage does continue the story and it's going to get a lot more heinous. I'm not going to get into it now because then we're going to run for a really, really long time. So, yeah, that will do it from this week. I hope you all enjoyed. Join me on Monday where I'm going to review TNA's pay-per-view and WWE Backlash, which is coming tonight and tomorrow during the day for me. Then Tuesday, I'll cover TNA, Rampage. No SmackDown because I'll be watching Under Siege. And then also no Collision because that got preempted by the NBA. So, I hope you all enjoyed. And until next time, happy wrestling, everybody. Peace.